Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with another episode with the Open World series. We are going to be actually starting on the PCG stuff today, so hooray for everyone else. As you can see, here we are in the world. One quick thing that I forgot is here in the data asset, the PCG data asset that we made, I made a debug variable. I did have it directly in the blueprint, but figured that it would look better and be easier to utilize here instead of having to find the PCG in your outliner and then hitting debug. So let's go ahead and get started with what we were going to do. There are obviously a couple things we need to do. The first thing is going to be a new folder called Blueprints. And then we're going to create a blueprint. It's just going to be type actor BP underscore biome spline underscore TLCOA. All right. And then directly in here, all we are really going to do is first add a spline. Just the utility one, not any of the other stuff. I'm just going to keep it named spline. I'm going to remove the other root component so I don't run into any issues down the road. As you can see here, we have a spline. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a shape. First thing you need to know, obviously you can move around when you click on a point. You hold down Alt and drag and it will create another point for you. Let me just get a nice shape here real quick. Oops, that one went that way, that's fine. Cool. The next thing we want to do is this check mark right here that says closed loop. There we go. If I hit compile, place right here, we now have ourselves a nice loop. Next thing we need to do is add and type in PCG. Oh, look at that. So obviously if you run into that issue, that means we need to come here to plugins, PCG. Look at that. None of the PCG stuff is on. So we're going to go ahead and check mark these right here. And yeah, I'll just have those three for now. We'll deal with water when we get to that mod. Actually, let's just turn it on now. There we go. So next thing we need to do now, obviously, is restart. So I will be right back. All right. Now then, once you have your project loaded back up, go back to the ad and type PCG. And there we go. I'm just going to leave that as it is. And what we are going to need to do in here is we need the graph. So we're going to go back to the PCG folder, right click, new folder, graphs, new folder, biome spline, and then come down here to PCG, PCG graph, and I'm going to name it PCG. And what did I name it here? We're going to call it biome spline. No, just biospline underscore TLCOA. Open it up. But before we do anything else, so that we don't forget, I'm going to put this graph right there. Compile and save. All right. So here is what a graph looks like. I know it's not terribly different from a blueprint on first glance, but there are a significant number of differences, and we will most certainly get to that. So before we do any of that, we're just going to move these out of the way because we don't quite yet need these. If we do down the road, we'll get them. This way I can find it. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is right click in the graph and type get spline data. Now, obviously here we can keep it on self because it is in the blueprint that we're on, so we don't have to worry about it, but you could always use parent, root, all world actors, original. So you have options for when you're getting the spline data. The next thing we're going to do is pull out of here, and we're going to add a new node. It's to 5.4 and later, so sorry to those that are trying to do this in older versions. You need create surface from spline. Great. And then from there, we are going to create our first subgraph. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to name this subgraphs. Right click, PCG. Name this PCG. Assign data underscore TLCOA. Now we're going to open this up. So we will be using the input and outputs, obviously, thankfully. So we're going to go ahead and get everything set up in the input and outputs. Now then, for the input, for n, we will name this surface. The usage will stay normal, and we will change this allowed types to there we go, surface. We're going to keep those check marked for now, doesn't matter. We're going to make this required. All right. Next one is where the magic happens. This is how loops work. So this next pin, we're going to name it parameters. It's short for parameters. And instead of normal, we're going to make it a loop. So this is what's going to control how often the loop plays. So we are going to make it type attribute set, and it will be required. And then we need another one. We will name this one meshes. And it will be normal type attribute set, and of course required. Now obviously if it's required, if the pin is not filled, it will not run that the graph, which is why we're making it required. So luckily for the rest of them that we're going to make, we can just click on this down arrow and hit duplicate. And we will name this one transform info. Duplicate. Landscape info. Duplicate. Sorry, I'm just going in the order that I have them in here. Slope info. I'll move them around in a moment. Duplicate. Height info. And then we have here landscape layers. Layer transition. And then landscape bool. So that is everything that we need here. I'm going to go ahead and change this up a little bit here. Slope goes up there. Height goes right there. There. Perfect. So, next thing we are going to do, oh, there's one more, and it's extremely important. And it's something that we won't touch until the end, but I don't want to forget about it, so we will put it in now. And it is going to be a feedback loop. Now, it's important that the input and output are identical with the feedback so that it knows where to put it. So we're going to name this previous points. Name it feedback. Make it spatial and normal. We don't want it required because nothing's going to plug into it from the outside. Now then, for the output, we want this to be point data. Make it normal. Then we're going to hit the plus sign. Previous points. Feedback. And spatial. Obviously, we can come back over here and make sure it's all identical. All right. We now have these points set up. Perfect. So the next thing we are going to do is get the surface sampler. So because we create surface from spline, we can now utilize the surface sampler node. Otherwise, we would need to do the spline sampler node. And we want the surface sampler node because it's got a few things that we want to utilize. Let's go ahead and put this up here for now so I can find it later. Now, something else that's new to 5.4 is named reroutes. You have to hit F2 to rename the reroute node. This will save us a great deal of time down the road. So we want to right-click surface, place that right there. Huzzah. Now then, here in params, we will also pull out. That way, anywhere that we need to use this, we don't have giant strings going around it. Params. I'm going to grab this, and we're going to get a node that is quite misleading by its name. It's called delete attributes. And here in the operation, you can choose keep only selected attribute. And what we're going to do here is selected attribute will be density. And we will be putting that one in the points per square meter. Oh, I was like, why didn't that work? So first we need to drag this here. There we go. Copy, paste. This one will be looseness. And you need to make sure that these right here match what's in our data asset. So if we come back here, come down here to one of these, as you can see, I made a whole bunch of them. Looseness, density, these need to be named properly, and we'll go deeper into it in a moment. I'm just getting these ready. Obviously, I put looseness in the wrong spot. Looseness needs to go to looseness. I'm just copying and pasting at the moment. Then extents, point extents. And then one more. This one will be called seed. There we go. Now then, come over here. All the important stuff is grayed out. It's great, isn't it? Minimize that. We'll hit save. Now the next thing we need to do is come back into our main graph. And we need to get our subgraph here and drag it in. Create PCG, so the name of the graph, loop node. We want loop node because it is a loop. We'll place that in here. Hit save. Now let's go back into our blueprint here because we currently don't have any variables. And there's only one that we need to get. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. And I'm going to name it, let's just name it data table or data asset. And then it's going to be of type. Oh, right. Where is it? PCG data asset. We want this one, not this one, this one. I compile. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Yes, I was. It's one of those days. Sorry, guys. Data asset. Whoops. BP1. That's the one we want. We hit compile. There we go. It's red. We want to open up the eyeball. Compile and save. We will leave it empty on purpose. Then you come to the tool that we've placed into the world. There we go. Data asset. And we are going to put our data asset in there. There we go. So now we're going to get a node that's called get actor property. Now it's saying a warning because some parameters are missing, so it's not going to utilize it. We're obviously going to keep it itself. We need to get the property name. For us, we just named a data asset. So now the warning is gone. Now then, for this, we come here, we need to get list of meshes. So we're going to drag out, get property from object path. From here, keep it at the last, and we'll name it list of meshes. So if a warning ever pops up, it means it didn't find it. So if I just name it mesh, oh, so it's an error. It's important to know that. And then in order to make this work with a loop, we need to drag out of here, attribute attribute. Let's just type in partition. There we go. And then we are going to change this from last, hit the plus sign, go to index. So what does this do? Well, let's go ahead and here hit A when you're selecting this node right here. Hit the down box, and we have all of these things, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is fine. It's holding a bunch of information. Now, if we come here to this and hit A, now we only have one of them. However, they're now all right here. So now it knows to loop through all of those. Now then, what we did here, before we can play along and see the graph working, obviously, we need to plug all of these in, which is easy enough to do. So I'm going to copy and paste. So within the meshes, within list of meshes, we have meshes. We need to get that. So we go to list of meshes, dot meshes. And that's our meshes. Dot slope info. Height info. Transform info. Landscape info. And these ones I don't want to name and spell incorrectly. Oh. So we're going to come over here. Let's see. We'll do it this way. Copy, paste. There's 3 more. Paste, paste. Get these into here. Then I'm going to hop back over here to this. And the first thing that we need, sorry, is the landscape layers. So I'll come over here, 2, copy, and then the transition. And then the bool. And now it's no longer grayed out. It's being used. So let's double click on that to open it back up. If we come over here, click on the surface sampler and hit the D button. Oh, after we hit the D button, sorry, we need to try to keep them both in there. Selecting this down arrow, just like that. Interesting, it should be showing at the moment, and it's not. Let me find out, and I'll be right back. All right, so I found it wrong. I found out what it was. Don't need that. Here in the surface sampler, let's hit the D again. I forgot to select unbounded. There we go. Look at that. We have all these different shaped, not shaped, but sized setups. So it is doing all of this 7 times, 0 to 6. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to end this video because we're running short on time. So we now have this set up. Now we're going to go through and things are going to just speed up and we're going to get a whole bunch done. And you're going to see everything develop really quickly. In the next episode, we're going to get it attached to the landscape and scaling, not scaling, but transitioning, thinning out is the word when it gets closer to the edges. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.